Welcome to another episode of the Coach Up Podcast Extension. I am Kanisha Hart. I'm super excited to have with me Ara McKay. Thank you for being here. And we are talking about Ara's expertise of who she helps and the unique challenges that can sometimes create obstacles in that area and how we move through them. So, Ara, will you please tell people who it is that you work with and what you do and who you are?
Absolutely. So my name is Aura McKay, and I am the founder of Business of Creativity. And what that really means is that I have dedicated my time to building a business that supports specifically creative freelancers. So I'm talking about mostly photographers, graphic designers, videographers, copywriters, like we're seeing an explosion of creative services that are being provided by freelancers. And my experience has been that there's not a lot of support in helping those creative people build a profitable, sustainable business. They just haven't been given necessarily the training or the tools or the framework to look at business in a way that fills them with confidence.
So, what are those challenges? Because, yeah, we're in a world where, especially photography, because so much is visual, videography, so much is on video, right? Especially social media support and business owners, because our world is so governed by
Mm.
that. And so the demand is there, but people have to build a business. And so, what are some of those challenges that people hit?
Well, I think the biggest challenge is actually about that right now. I think the biggest fear that a lot of creatives have is specifically around, is the demand actually there? Is AI coming to a place where it really is empowering the layperson to do so much more that they won't necessarily need creatives anymore? I think there's a fear that there might be enough templates out there. There might be enough DIY, SAS out there, the software as a service, like Canva. Um, we're sitting here doing a live video broadcast. We're not paying a videographer right now. So I
Absolutely.
think there is a fear that the services that we provide aren't going to be needed anymore. And I think this is really interesting because this is relatively new. Like the idea of being irrelevant or not needed, yes, it's been around for a long time. I mean, I was around when digital photography was born in the late 1900s, and the fear then was, oh, film photography doesn't like film photography requires a certain amount of skill and expertise and training, and there's a certain kind of like, oh, only real photographers can do that, and
Mhm.
that is missing now. And so for a lot of creatives, our services have become commoditized, where it becomes about price and not about our self-expression or our creative talent or our unique skills, or who we are that we uniquely bring to the marketplace. And the thing about it is, Kaneshi, is that it's a myth.
Break down why we should believe it's a myth.
So the part of my belief system and kind of my grounding is like, what you look for, you're gonna see. Like, if you start from an opinion or a point of view, you will look out in the world and you can get validation for that. There's no shortage of being validated. So if you approach the marketplace with a belief system that people don't care about creativity, people don't value talent anymore, people are just going to DIY, people won't pay for real creativity, AI is taking over our jobs, the wannabes are undercharging and putting us out of the market. Like, if that's your kind of mindset, then yes, absolutely, you are going to see lots of evidence.
Mhm.
I like to focus on the evidence of awesome. I like to look at, from the perspective of positive psychology, what is actually working? Where are the opportunities? Because it's not a full blanket truth that people aren't spending money. I have clients on my roster that have billed over six figures this year as photographers doing headshots, and they're in, 150, $180,000 a year.
Hmm.
So there's money out there. And I think the first obstacle, the first fear-based obstacle is nobody wants us, nobody's going to pay us, nobody's going to hire us as a group. And that's the first obstacle to overcome. So a lot of what I do is teach people or show people how to find the opportunities, how to recognize the opportunities, how to build that muscle, that habit, what I call practice the mastery and mastery the practice of looking for the opportunities. And once they do that, then the next fear kicks in. You know what it is.
I'm going to ask what that is. I want to share this thought as what you were talking about just resonated, that often, I know that there's a Bible verse that says, I'm going to paraphrase, as a man thinks, so is he. And it goes into what we know for, if you believe it, you can achieve it. And that applies to the positive and the negative, right? And so if you believe nobody has money, it's oversaturated market, then that's exactly what you'll achieve. Nobody will buy from you, and you will be part of the saturation that nobody is looking for. But if you reframe it, like you said, I love that you said, look for the awesome, right? And look for, and master the practice of looking for the next opportunity, because it is a practice, right? We're doing it over and over.
We are hardwired to be on alert. We are hardwired to look for danger and to protect ourselves. So we do have to be intentional about, okay, let's look for the evidence of awesome. Let's get into the practice of that. There's also the struggle of most freelancers are on their own. They're by themselves. And so they're in a closed loop of feeling and information. And then if you go out into the world and you surround yourself with people who are already like-minded, who believe what you believe, then you're just going to reinforce that. And so the opportunity is, where might there be a community or group of people who have a mindset of possibility, a mindset of hope, a mindset of there is opportunity out there. And how can I get in that community and surround myself with that so that I can start to shift my own sense of what is even possible for me?
Yeah. Is that the next fear that you were going to talk about? Or
no, I think that once you get over the fear that it's just not possible for anyone, then you go into the fear of, oh, well, it might be possible for other people. Other people are more talented. Other people have more money, so they don't have to worry so much. Other people have part-time jobs. Other people have been doing this for 20 years. They have a leg up on me. Like there's this sense of, okay, it might be possible, but it's not possible for me. And many of us are familiar with this under the label imposter syndrome.
Yes, absolutely. And unfortunately, if we just boil down to it, it's what you just said. It's the fear of what is for others is not for me. And it's fear-based. It's foundational-based. And so how do you help your clients get through it?
So there's actually one more piece that is necessary for possibility to be unlocked. So when I say to my audience is that there are actually 3 core beliefs that are necessary for success. And so if we're looking about the fear or the fear of failure, yes. Okay. So where do we get the courage to succeed? Because again, I don't want to look too deeply on the fears. I don't want to feed that demon beast. I want to look at and feed, okay, where's the courage come from? So the courage comes from 3 core beliefs. And that first core belief is belief that success is possible.
Yeah, that's important because we can look and see other people. So if they can do it,
also be based on nothing. Like belief that it's possible can just be a core belief. It can be very much like faith. Like it doesn't have to be based on evidence, especially if you're in that place of there's no evidence. I can't see the evidence of awesome. you can still hold that belief that success is possible for other people.
Mm-hmm.
Then the second core belief is belief that success is actually possible for you.
Got it. Okay.
And the third core belief is belief that success is worth it. Is it worth doing the things that you need to do in order to become what you choose to become? There's a reason why I have not lost that 30 pounds yet. I believe it's possible. I've done it. I did it. I kept 70 pounds off for like 15 years, gained it all back.
Mhm.
But do I believe that it's possible for other people?
Mhm.
Yes. Do I believe that it's possible for me? Yes. I don't yet believe that it's worth it.
Wow.
And so when we look at creating courage for ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
it's the courage to believe that, yes, success is possible. The courage to believe that I, in fact, am enough and deserving of success. And then the courage to take those very scary actions, to be uncomfortable because change requires discomfort. So the
Yes.
courage to do those things, and ultimately to do all of that by yourself is really hard.
Right. Because your thoughts are looping in to reaffirm the thoughts that you already have. There's nothing
Ex-
outside of you to break that up, which, like you said, people who are like minded, who think in possibilities, can help to disrupt those thoughts that are not serving you well and help to
Yeah.
supplant or affirm those that will.
So let's just get really clear though. It's not just about mindset or thoughts or beliefs, because that third one is about taking the action. And
Right.
one of the things that I've noticed is that because we're so saturated with memes and inspirational things and free webinars and hope and podcasts, like
Mm-hmm.
we are saturated with information. And so sometimes what happens is we think information or knowledge leads to the power. We think that getting the information is enough. Like, but I'm learning all this stuff and I know all this stuff. Like, where's my success? Well, nothing happens without action.
Right.
The results that you currently have in your life right now are come directly from actions you took or actions you did not take.
Mm.
My 30 pounds is because I took the action of sitting on the couch. I did not take the action of going to the gym. The results that I have are an exact representation of the past actions that I took or I didn't take.
Mm-hmm.
But here's where the three core beliefs come into play. We take action based on our beliefs and our thoughts and our feelings. If we believe listening to a podcast is going to help us be successful, we will listen to the podcast. If we believe that podcasts are, ear candy and don't really matter and never have anything of value, are we going to listen to a podcast?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Mm.
If we believe that we suck at accounting and numbers and anything like that, are we going to be mindful of our revenue and really think hard about whether we're pricing for profit?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Mm.
So just supporting people on the beliefs and the mindset piece is wonderful for that dissipation of fear. But here's the thing. The actions come before the courage,
So before the feeling is what you're saying.
before the confidence. Yeah. So what happens is you have to do it scared to get the confidence of having done it at
Right.
all.
Feel the fear. Do it anyway.
Yeah.
So I've heard this concept,
Uh-huh.
Ara, and I've heard that I read a book by Amy Cuddy called
Mhm.
Presence, I believe. And I really like the book because I rarely remember titles and authors of books I read. But she talked about Superman poses and power poses so that the physicality of a powerful stance communicates then to the brain to give it the power and the courage to do something versus,
Mhm.
as you're talking about, just thinking, I'm going to be strong, I'm going to be courageous, I'm going to be confident.
I'm gonna like there's a whole lot of semantics on like how do you actually use neuroscience to reprogram your brain and how your physical state can change your emotional and internal state. I mean, Tony Robbins has been talking about, oh, change your state, whoop, change your state. I mean, that's why all he's got is clapping and his hands in the air and all that. It's all about changing your physical state to change your internal state. Because,
Yeah.
even just as a small exercise, if your listeners and you would take a small moment to just sit and start to frown and put your shoulders down and kind of slump your body in your chair and just kind of have some heavy sighs and just sit in that feeling for a minute. Okay, now start to straighten up your back. Sit forward a little bit on your chair, raise your shoulders up, take a deep belly breath in, smile, start to like just breathe into that feeling. And physically, you can sense the energy levels shift because of our state. So absolutely, there's something to the physicality. What I will say is that often fear, anticipation, and excitement are conflated in terms of their identification of what emotion am I experiencing right now. So when you have the experience of fear, Kaneshi, what are the physical symptoms that fear evokes in your body?
I tend to perspire.
Okay, so you start to sweat a little bit. Okay, yeah. What
Yes.
happens to your breathing?
I
Is it
don't know.
slow? Is it rapid? Is your heart starting to beat a little bit faster? Do your hands get clammy? Do you start kind of like, ooh, what's gonna happen? Yeah.
Those are good questions. I do
Mm.
know I start to sweat. I don't know any of the other signs of my own self when it comes
Well,
to fear.
that's a really good inquiry then, is to look at and just sometimes when we identify and label things, they lose our power. So that is another way to access untangling the grip of fear, is to
Mm,
just look at, okay, what are the physical sensations I'm feeling right now? Okay, I'm perspiring. My heart is beating. My breath is shallow and fast. My hands are clammy. My body's starting to tense up. Okay,
mhm.
what is the physical sensation when you are excited or you're anticipating something? You're about to give someone a surprise party. You don't know if it's
Uh,
going to work or not.
right. So
Your
I
heart
would
starts to
translate
beat.
that as to nervousness, and so I start to sweat. So
Mhm.
I see how
Great.
they work. Yes.
So you're having the same physical sensations,
Hmm.
but in one circumstance, you label it as fear. And so because it's fear, it stops you. In the
Hmm.
other circumstance, you say, ooh, this is nervousness, excitement, and anticipation. That means something good is about to happen.
Right.
Who decides that? Whether
We
it's
do.
fear or whether it's excitement.
That's on us.
So, what if you start to go, oh, these body sensations are actually excitement? Something good and unknown is about to happen. So
Right.
that's kind of like a reframe
Yeah.
tool, like where we do not quite an affirmation, but there's so many different ways that fear sneaks up on us. And so having like a repertoire or a toolbox of
Yeah.
options for how is fear attacking me right now in this moment, or not even attacking, but how is fear showing up to
Yeah.
protect me or to warn me, or because there are very valid fears in the world.
Sure.
And so the first thing to check into when you have an experience of fear is, am I actually in danger?
Hmm.
Am
Right.
I in danger in this present moment right now? Okay, if you are, then great. Fear is doing an awesome job. It's alerting you to that. It's sending cortisol to your body. It's getting you set up to be able to protect yourself. Great. Most of the time, especially in business, fear is about projecting an imagined future that has not actually happened yet. I'm afraid to get on a live podcast because all of these things could happen. Insert fear-based imagination here. I'm afraid to ask for the sale because they're going to think I'm too pushy, and they're going to think that I don't really know what I'm talking about, and my prices are too high, and then they're not going to want to work with me. And none of that has happened.
Right.
So we're creating a heightened physical state where we have all of this energy, nervous energy, and sweating, and then we're going to go do this thing from this place of, whoa, okay, here I go. So the noticing of, oh, what is the energy that I'm bringing into this conversation? Yeah. Is this fear valid? If so, what do I need to do to protect myself? If not, how can I transform this fear into anticipation? How can I use this physical state to contribute to what I'm about to do? Or how can I shift my physical state, power stance, whatever it is, so that I can enter the conversation in a way that is intentional? So one of the things I do, Kanishi, is I start every group call, every private call, every coaching session with an opportunity to just take a moment to check in with our physical body, to breathe and identify what are the emotions or the energy that I'm bringing into this space. And we share the 2 to 3 words. We practice the emotional intelligence of identifying and labeling feelings, using actual words to call those feelings out. I'm tired, I'm disconnected, I'm nervous, I'm mad at my spouse, and I don't want to have this conversation with a client right now. Oh, that's not going to be very helpful. Or a lot of people, their main fear is scarcity. I'm not going to get enough work. I'm not going to be able to make enough money. So you enter a sales call and you're in that place of, I am desperate for you. I need you as a client more than you need me. And that changes the actions we take, because the actions we take are based on those thoughts and feelings. So that practice of just taking a moment before you enter any conversation or write an email and just go, what am I currently feeling? What am I bringing already to this conversation? Right. And is that really what I want to bring to this conversation? Do I want to set an intention for generosity and possibility and alignment? And I am the one, I am the right choice.
Mm-hmm. I bet that when it's not just identifying those feelings, but then having to make a conscious, intentional choice to feel something different, to open up the possibilities. And I think that comes from asking the question, right? As you said, fear is based on a future that we've imagined that has not occurred yet. But we're anticipating with the question of what's the worst that could happen. Whereas if we anticipate with, what can I learn from this? What may come of this? What opportunities may arise that I'm not even anticipating? How could this be great? It's that reframe from, I've identified, I've spoken out loud what I'm feeling now. And if it's not where a space I want to be, asking the questions instead of just telling ourselves, no, I'm going to feel differently. We ask questions for open possibilities. That gives us more of an opportunity to shift that mindset.
Exactly. And there's a piece of it that I kind of have my own little personal crusade or soapbox on, which is the idea of a blanket affirmation. Like when you said, just no, I'm not going to feel this way. I feel confident and happy and upbeat. And it's like, You can say that out loud, but the voice that matters the most is the internal voice. The voice that says, no, you don't. You feel freaked out right now. Yeah, you're saying that out loud, but I don't believe that. I feel. So you can't lie to yourself. You can't just say, I'm great with money. I have abundance in my life. I am super confident, because you don't believe it.
Yeah.
And it's the beliefs that cause the actions and the results. So how do you change that belief system if you're not going to just flip it on its head? Well, I invite something called progressive statements. And I'm happy to share the progressive statements workbook with your audience. We can put a link in the show notes for you, but it's a way of going, okay, for an example, what would be one of the fears that come up for you or your audience? What is one of them? We'll just workshop it here for a little minute.
The topic that I'm talking about is not resonating with them. It's not.
Okay. So if you were to say an I am statement, or I'm afraid that I have picked a topic that sucks.
That would not have been how I worded that, but yeah.
Okay. So it is actually important to know how you worded it. So tell me again how you would word it to yourself in your mind.
I am afraid that what I'm talking about, nobody is interested in.
Ooh, that was a real fear. Thank you for being very authentic on that. Yeah. And so what if you were to just flip that on its head? I am 100% confident that people are going to love every topic I choose. I see your face. You're like,
are we lying to ourselves again?
I think you would be. Try it on. Like, if you say it, do you believe it? I'm 100%
confident that what I choose to talk about, people will be interested in.
Every topic.
Maybe.
Yeah, but what if you used a progressive statement instead of an absolute? What if I am learning to trust myself and the topics that I choose?
Well, one, that removes other people from it, which is important. And two, it focuses on, again, we go back to, I like your word, practice. Because if I'm in the learning, it's a process.
I'm learning. And as soon as you say I'm in the process of, or I'm learning, or I'm making progress with, or that it just unhooks the absolute, and your brain can go, yeah, okay. Even just by saying that, I guess you are kind of learning, because it's not as absolute as it was before. And your brain will look for evidence to support that. It's always looking for external validation. So if you make a declaration that you believe to be true, your brain will look for external validation to make it so.
Okay. That makes sense. And feels more possible than than
an absolute.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so I want to plug into something that you said earlier and bring it sort of full circle. We talked about how to, the three pillars, right? So belief that success is possible, belief that you can succeed, belief that it's worth it, right? And then how to shift the way that you are believing. But you had mentioned earlier other people.
Yeah.
And so how does that play into us building that belief with other people? How do those two things interchange or intertwine?
Whew, that's a big question. There is an author whose name escapes me right now, but his book is called Change or Die. Sounds very apocalyptic, like change or die. But in it, he talks about the environment that is necessary for people to make significant change. He talks specifically about heart surgery patients who have really change or die, change your lifestyle, or you will be back on our table for another surgery, or you will be in the ground. Less than 10% of people make a change.
Wow.
He talks about how do you actually engineer change in prisons so that there's no recidivism, that people actually are reformed in it, so that the prison system is effective. He talks about change in business and how to radically change the way that business works. And in it, there's one thing which is reframe, which is change your beliefs. And then there is repeat the behavior, practice your mastery. But then there's also this piece of being surrounded by or inside of an environment where that behavior is the norm, where you can see it modeled for you consistently. Because we're so used to being on high alert and looking for the fear and finding out why it's not working, or we're so entrenched into our default way of thinking and default way of being that we've done for our whole lives, that changing that default takes seeing it in others. The power of community and relationship is that we often can't see it in ourselves. I am a marketing expert. I coach and consult people on marketing up to I'm working with $5 million companies, helping them with their marketing. My marketing, I need someone else to look at. I'm too close to it.
Oh.
So often we can't see our own blind spots or our own areas of our biggest obstacle. But if someone else in a group stands up and says, I'm having this problem, we go, oh, me too. Oh my goodness. Oh, that sounds like me. Mm-hmm. It also gives other people the opportunity to solve the problem for you. And so you get to learn from their mistakes and how they overcame a particular challenge, or maybe how they approached a scary situation. And so you can learn and take away from them, and it's a shortcut to your own accelerated growth. There's something to be said about Me Too. When you don't feel alone in your journey, when you don't feel alone in the challenges you're facing, because one of those fears is nobody understands me. Nobody understands what it's like to be a freelancer. Nobody understands what it's like to be a multi-passionate creative. Nobody understands what it's like to be neurodiverse and try to tackle business. Nobody understands what it's like to be a woman in a male dominant. Nobody understands what it's like to be 30 pounds overweight. Nobody understands me. But when we look, there are going to be communities of people who are working towards the same dreams, who are pushing towards the same outcomes, who have found solutions or paths that maybe you haven't noticed before. And even if you have, the value of being a part of and truly belonging instead of fitting in. And you know the distinction, yes?
Give it to us.
Belonging is you get to show up as you are. Fitting in is you get to show up as they need you to be.
Okay. All right. That's a good one. Okay. So we have that distinction. And so that's important.
So being in a room where you belong gets you the opportunity to operate without fear or with lessened fear, because you're in a safe place. Other people are being authentic and vulnerable. You know that there's a commitment or an agreement to confidentiality. You know that there's a commitment to collaboration, that it's being guided and facilitated so you can trust someone else to keep and hold the container within which that group is meeting. And truly, that's one of the things that I'm going to toot my horn for a little minute. I am a master facilitator. And in my groups, there's such a beautiful uniqueness of that authenticity and that collaboration and that sense of we're all in it together. It is remarkable to me. I've been running my groups for over 5 years now. And I recently had a personal tragedy in my life, and the group said, like, hey, we'll keep paying you for the whole month. You don't have to teach us. Like, we just really want to support you. How can we support you? And I said, actually, being in that community in this state of some tragedy in my own life is exactly where I need to be, because that community can hold me even when I'm not my best self.
Right.
And that community can remind me that each of us is vulnerable, but each of us is also courageous.
You have given us a lot of steps, very practical, applicable steps to use to move through the nobody understands me statements, through the fear that what I'm doing is not
Yeah.
going to work, or what I'm imagining could come true when we don't know. So I want to wrap us with just a quick recap of the steps so that you guys listening can take that away and say, I got you, don't worry. Take that away and say, okay, I know that I can, if I just take these 2 or 3 things from this conversation, I can make a shift in how I'm approaching and how I choose to approach things. So I'll tell you 2 of
Okay.
mine, and then I'll ask if you'll give 2 of
Okay.
yours that I've had for takeaway. So one is mastering the practice, mastery of
Mhm.
practice.
Practice the
I don't know if I said
mastery,
that exactly.
master the practice.
Master the practice. That's what I like. Okay, master the practice. I think that's brilliant because it changes our brain from the absolutes, as you said, to okay, we can do this. We can change. We can evolve. So master the practice, practice the mastery, master the practice. And then the second one is to find a place where you belong, which will take effort, which will take investigation, which will take talking to the wrong people, realizing they're not your people. It will take some time, right? It's not going to be you open up your Facebook and find the new 5 people who have the same title as you, and it's not going to give yourself grace and time and be okay with saying no to the groups and the people that are not in that possibility mindset and same direction as you, and saying, I'm going to wait until I find the right
Yeah.
ones. But then when you do,
Yeah.
immerse and be
And that
yourself.
is such a good way of saying you will know when you're trying to effort to fit in versus feeling the
Mm,
grace of belonging.
yeah. Yes.
Especially
Okay. Give us 2.
if you
Oh, go ahead.
always, before you engage in conversation, relationship, writing an email, check in to see how am I currently feeling? What words can I use to
Mhm.
identify the default stuff that's just showing up for me, including is it fear or is it nervousness? And so taking the time to identify what's already there and then choosing with intention
Mhm.
if that's what you want to bring into this interaction. Yeah.
Perfect. That is the perfect wrap. You guys have gotten amazing direction, tips, techniques on how to change and shift so that you're going forward with courage, not fear. All right, I know you have more,
Yes.
obviously, that you could share. And so, how can people find you and connect
Well,
with
I
you?
do have the Business of Creativity YouTube channel. I have a Coaching for Creatives podcast, and I have the Confident Creative Community on Facebook. So those are like 3 free, easy access ways to connect with me. The other thing you can do is just reach out on my website, businessofcreativity.ca, and book a call with me. I'm happy to have a conversation with anybody about their current journey in entrepreneurship and creativity, and to see, is there something that I have that can support you, or can I direct you to another resource I already have? That is leaning into community. That is going, oh, this person has already walked that path and might be able to help me walk my own path with more courage.
And that is where we go further. You want to go fast? Go alone. You want to go further?
Yeah.
Go together. Thank you for this today. It is always powerful to have these conversations, no matter what time we have them, whether it's 12 BC or whether it's 1200 or whether it's 2025.
Exactly.
This conversation is always relevant because fear is something that attacks us all on a regular basis. And so having the tools to be able to forge through it are super important. So thank you for this conversation
Thank you.
today.